So this is a bit different from my usual videos. As you may have heard, I launched a podcast with Sam from Wendover Productions last week, where we interview online creators about their life and craft. And this episode we interview none other than Hank Green. In future, these episodes will be uploaded to YouTube on the Showmakers channel, which I've linked in the description. This video will be deleted in a week or so, and I'll be back to my regular videos. If you're using mobile data, I highly recommend you close this window and use the RSS feed or the iTunes link in the description, because, you know, this video is going to use up a lot of your mobile data. It's a video. Audio is better. Other than that, I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, just enjoy.
So hey, we've started a podcast. If you don't know who we are, I'm Sam.
And I'm Brian.
And I make a YouTube show called Wendover Productions.
And I created Real Engineering.
Both of us started on YouTube about a year ago and have managed to build up decent-sized audiences. But we're not done yet.
In each episode, we'll be talking to people who have really succeeded at becoming creators.
Some will be YouTubers, some will be bloggers, some will be podcasters, some entrepreneurs, but each of them will have an interesting story to tell. And today, for our very first episode, we're beyond excited to welcome the one and only Hank Green. You might know him from his original channel, Vlogbrothers, or perhaps one of his business ventures, Crash Course, SciShow, Mental Floss, Subbable, DFTBA Records, DFTBA Games, VidCon, Project for Awesome, or one of the countless more. No matter where you know him from, we're glad you're listening, and we're glad you, Hank, are here. So thank you and welcome.
Hey, how's it going? It's weird to have it all listed out like that. It makes me feel like I've done things.
Well, yeah, it's the ego inflator to start, right?
Yeah, right. Tell me why I'm cool, so then you can get me to open up and say really nasty things.
Exactly.
I'll feel really comfortable. Yeah, perfect. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great.
I am fantastic.
Good.
I'm a happy man right now.
Well, we got our number one guest for our first episode.
Well, I love that you guys are doing this. So I'm going to start out with a little story. 4 years ago, I was hanging out with a bunch of YouTube educational content creators. It was like Vihart and Gray and Derek and Destin and Henry from Minute Physics were all there. Maybe others I'm forgetting. Brady was there. And we were at a YouTube event, and we were like, it's weird that we all started making videos around the same time, like educational stuff, and found each other and like had this little community, and now it doesn't feel like there has been much happening in that space since then. It just seems like we happened, and then there stopped being people trying new interesting things in education and online video, and that happened for like years, it felt like. And now in the last year, 6 months, it's like, whoa, okay, here it all is. It happened. It finally happened. And both of your channels are two that I felt like, oh yeah, this is not just good. It's making me feel uncomfortable. It's so good. It's removing me from my lull. I need to be working to try and figure out how to make better stuff, and because otherwise these new kids are going to take over.
What do you think triggered all of that? What do you think there was this sudden kind of watershed moment where there was more channels like ours popping up? Because I have noticed that myself, because I've been following the educational space for so long. And the people you've just mentioned there were the big players in it. But in the last year, there's been so many new people then.
I mean, you might know better than me because you were, literally a part of it. But I think that there's a component of it that's actually like YouTube got better at like spreading the love a little bit. And so instead of like, like the signal to noise ratio at the bottom is more difficult to parse than like if you have more signal, like you can figure out that better. So if you're getting 100,000 or 400,000 views a video, it's easier to tell if people really like the content than if you're getting like 20,000 views or even 5,000. And I think YouTube got better at finding that, like figuring that signal to noise ratio out so they could promote content that wasn't getting a lot of views, but that people really liked. And that's a pure blind guess, but based on my recommendations, it kind of feels right. Like, I often get a video recommended to me that has like 20 or 50,000 views, and I'm like, you're right, YouTube. This is like exactly the thing I want to watch right now. I don't know how you figured that out, but a year ago, that was not the case. A year ago, it was like, oh, you watched a soccer highlight video once. Here's 8 of those. Less good at figuring out what I like. So I think that might be part of it, yeah.
I think that's totally. There are a lot of people have a lot of different opinions on YouTube, but personally, and I think Brian agrees, like YouTube and the algorithm has done like good stuff for us, and it brought us from relatively small channels, because of course we needed that first little push, and I think both of us that came from Reddit. But once you get to that first little push, it does a good job of promoting those small channels, at least in the last couple months or year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like 6 months to me.
Yeah, something like that.
Our growth definitely started about 6 months ago, like where it really became a thing. I know for myself, because I left my job when I had like 0 subscribers to do this, as I figured I'm not going to make this happen unless I have to make it happen financially, and
which is a really bad idea.
Such a
Don't
bad
do
idea.
that.
Terrible idea. I had a really good job, and I was like, nah,
I don't know.
I'm happy. I think it was the best mistake I've ever made.
Yeah, I mean, you could always get another job.
Yeah, and I wasn't happy in the job either, so that made it a lot easier. But then, 6 months ago, when I was running out of savings, like June, July, and I had to move home to Ireland because I was originally living in Malaysia. Just as I moved home, everything started to explode, and it became like, oh, this is actually something I could possibly do full time. And those last 6 months have been pretty intense, and that transition has been a lot of learning. It's been very fun, though.
That. I also have a theory that these things happen in moments when there are multiple people kind of trying similar things, and it's succeeding, and then you guys, or you people who are doing this, will push each other forward and be like, oh, I see what they did in that video, that's a really good idea, maybe I can incorporate that into my next script. And a lot of this content, probably all of it in this generation, has been more of the voiceover style, where it's like, I'm talking, here's the animations.
Yeah.
And I think that works really well for educational content, because it like removes the barrier like of this human conduit, and it just is like, here is information, don't worry about like what I look like or whether you think I am like a credible source of the information, because I have no idea what you guys look like. You could be like 16-year-old people for all I know, and that wouldn't matter, because like I agree that the information is good. And I think that just like any human body is always going to be a barrier to some viewers. It's going to be like, I just don't like the way that guy looks. He reminds me of this douche that I knew in high school, and I'm not into it. So
for me, I don't think
that
that's a barrier so much. I just sometimes, I've been asked to show my face in the video a few times by like different places, and I just feel I can convey more information with an animation than just showing my face in the video.
Right, but it's harder. Like it's harder to create an animation than to show a face.
Yeah.
And so maybe there's also a component that's like it got like worthwhile enough for people to be like putting that amount of effort into content, rather
Do you
than
think
like
maybe
just
it got
showing your
easier?
face, which is much easier. It also maybe it could have also gotten easier, and it also could have just gotten like people saw that it was working and so tried it. And of course, like it's always been the case with a lot of different educational channels, like Minute Physics and Viheart and Khan Academy and Gray. We're all that way. We're all just words over images, which is really interesting. And like you don't see that so much with other kinds of content.
Yeah. It's funny with Minute Physics.
Anyway, what are we supposed to talk about?
Oh, anything and everything.
Oh, let's talk VidCon.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What do you want to say about Minute Physics? Because I love Henry so much.
Oh, wait.
No, I found it, because I remember when I was kind of toying around with the idea of a YouTube channel, I tried to kind of recreate that drawing style, because everyone was doing it. Everyone started copying him as soon as he started doing it.
Right.
Because if you do anything good, people will try to copy it.
Sure.
But I just blew my mind how difficult it was. I was like, I can draw this and record it. No, so much goes into it. So much goes into that.
Yeah, I mean,
and
he is an overwhelming friend because he is so good at so many things. It's just like I'm good at I'm like pretty good at a ton of stuff. Henry is very good at a ton of stuff. Like he's never watched a TV show. He doesn't even have internet in his house. He goes home and he like betters himself. He cooks delicious food and he practices mandolin and he spends time with people he likes. And it's just like, this is such like the way you're supposed to live, but no one does it. I'm so impressed by him. And
it takes energy to live like that. It takes serious amounts of energy.
Be hard to be with friends with a person that perfect. It's just because they're just constantly better than you.
Yeah, I have said that to him and he just laughs at me. But yeah.
So VidCon.
Okay, VidCon.
It's VidCon. It's your event, which according to Wikipedia had 25,000 people last year.
That's about right.
Wow, that's another statistic. Well, what I was also interested in is I also saw that in your first VidCon year, which was I think 2010, you had 1,400, which is not that many compared to 25,000, but 2010 was still I wouldn't say the infancy of YouTube.
No, I definitely wouldn't.
But I mean, you guys basically started 2-3 years before then. So that'd be kind of like if Brian and I went out and a year from now made a video conference, which I don't think we have plans to, and then get 1,400 people, which is, that's a sizable amount of people.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you could totally get 1,400 people to come and see you guys do something. Maybe not in one location, but like if you did a tour, like the two of you, and like went around and like you were like, we have like two videos that couldn't fit into videos, and so we're doing them live at a live show, and you're gonna come and you're gonna buy T-shirts and you're gonna pay $15 to get in. Like I think that over the course of like a European tour, you could totally do that. At the same time, like the thing that like is very different now than it was in 2010 is that like 1,400 people was like a lot of the people who were making content on YouTube were at that event. So even if they were just attending as like YouTube just wasn't as big then, and so that was we had a lot of the top people, and they pulled their audience from Los Angeles, and if it was 1,400 people, which is a lot, but not a lot, and I mean, it was a lot easier to put it all in your head at once then. Whereas now, like, of course, even the idea of VidCon representing all of online video now is ludicrous. Like, you've got Jimmy Fallon, and you've got makeup, and you've got video games, and you've got like content that's very specific to like model trains and Nerf gun modding, and we're just never gonna like be all of those things. And so it's become much more like people who are involved in the particular community of online video, but even that has become difficult to define. And so I should turn that off. And so even as like it's gotten very large, like it still feels like to me, like it doesn't achieve the goal of like being a place where the entire format, the genres, the medium itself is celebrated. I think that doesn't like it's okay to not achieve that goal. I want to have that goal even if it's unachievable. But yeah, it is the thing that drives me to keep trying to make the event more interesting and bigger.
As part of that, for the first year in about 2 months, you're going to have the first international VidCon. And, that's going to make it a lot easier for all the non-America people to go to a VidCon, which is, that's obviously a huge step up for a convention.
Yeah, it's a very different thing for us, and it's definitely a learning experience. We found, we kind of chose Amsterdam for a bunch of reasons. Like, it's pretty central in terms of Europe, and they have a really great convention center, and also it's a place that people want to go. Like, so we, when we're bringing like YouTubers somewhere, like you want to bring them somewhere that they would be like, oh yeah, I'll spend maybe an extra, like I'll bring my wife and we'll spend an extra week there, and Amsterdam's just a great place to visit, and I've never been and really want to go.
I'm actually here right now.
Like, speaking of which, where are you, Brian?
I'm in Amsterdam.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm currently in a hotel room under a desk with a blanket thrown over it, trying to get good audio quality. I feel like I'm living out my childhood dreams right now. I'm in a blanket fort.
That's hilarious.
And I'm in a adult.
It's great under there.
Wish for.
Yeah. But it's been harder to get people frankly, it's been harder to get folks to buy tickets. And I don't know if that's just like it seems expensive to people in Europe, or if there's less enthusiasm about the community of online video, maybe in part because there hasn't been this unifying voice, but maybe also just because like it's harder to have one thing get big when there's more language diversity.
Yeah, I think that would be a big factor in Europe. Like you're pulling from a huge population, but the cultural differences between everywhere is huge. Like there's already big conferences in London every year with Summer in the City and everything. Right. I don't feel like London needs another conference. I'm personally really excited for the one in Amsterdam. Like I'm really looking forward to meeting the people who I haven't got a chance to meet with in person. Like I've talked to them online loads, but I haven't got to speak to them in person yet. I think Amsterdam is a great city for that as well, like you said. And you can fly there from pretty much anywhere in Europe for really cheap. I'll give my personal endorsement for
concern.
I'll give my personal endorsement
all the people listening.
For Dublin, though.
Come out.
Dublin would be a great city for it. We don't have anything, and we've got Ryanair flying in from everywhere. So Dublin next year.
I'll look at it. I'll look at it for sure.
It's kind of shoved on one side of the whole continent. Whatever.
Not so much central, yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine trying to change location would be intensely difficult. Like a lot of the planning process, I imagine, is like just based around one single convention center, and by having it there the next year takes away a lot of the work.
Yeah, and also you develop relationships with the people at the convention center. But a lot of conventions move around, and we've looked at that. I mean, we can't not be in LA-ish, for the main one, just because that's where so many of the people who do this are. But we've looked at have like maybe the one that happens in Europe moves around just so that we can get a more diverse group of people from year to year.
The community in Dublin or Ireland in general is very small. I've noticed that myself now in the last 6 months while I've been home. I think there's 3 or 4 people doing it full time, and one of them is Jacksepticeye, who's pretty much like the biggest channel like nearly on YouTube entirely.
It's got to be also people just leave. Like that's what I find is like in American cities, like there are lots of people who are from another place, but now they're in LA.
Yeah, and Ireland it definitely suffers from that. Like everyone leaves. No one stays in Ireland to build a business. Like everyone seems to get up and go, which is partially why I'm kind of excited that I made the decision to stay there now.
Except for like giant multinational corporations, they all have their offices in Ireland. I wonder why that's about.
You guys should make a video about
it.
This episode of Showmakers was made possible by Fracture.
Fracture turns your digital images into thoughtful gifts or keepsakes by printing them directly onto glass.
Shipped complete with a backing and wall anchor or stand, they're ready to display, right out of the box.
Just upload your digital photo and pick your size. It's that simple.
The Fracture process really makes the color and contrast of your photo really pop, and the sleek frameless design lets your photo stand out while still matching any decorating style.
What's best is that you can get 10% off your first order by going to fractureme.com/podcast and selecting the show Showmakers from the one question survey. Fracture has actually allowed us to start a bit of a contest where we want to see your best dog or cat photos. If you tweet them to me at Wendover Pro or Brian at Fisrucht, Fiosracht, the best dog or cat photo we see is going to get a free Fracture. Send us your photo with the hashtag FractureMyPet. And once again, the best photo will get a free Fracture of that photo.
But like that kind of leads, one of the questions I wanted to ask you about is, like, you decided to set up most of your stuff in Missoula, Montana. What made you decide? It seems, for an Irish person, I have absolutely no idea about Montana, but it seems like an obscure enough place. Like, what was the benefits of setting up their business?
Well, first of all, it wasn't like a calculated decision. I live there, so I was like, I live here, and I was doing stuff, and then I was like, oh, I need somebody to help, so I put it out on Craigslist, and I hired someone, and then we needed some more people, and so we hired some more people, and then it was like, well, I can't leave now, all my employees are here. But I don't want to leave. Like, the thing is, it is more important to me. It's like not the only factor, but it's important to me to be happy. Absolutely, and certainly I make decisions on a day-to-day basis that decrease my happiness in exchange for something, whether that's having an impact on the world, or boosting my ego, or making money, or whatever it is. So I definitely do that, but overall, I don't want to not have my happiness be a factor. And in Los Angeles, I'm a more effective person. I can do more things. I'm more driven. I'm more ambitious. And like, I can tell that even after spending a week there. And that same thing happens if I go to New York City. Same things happens if I go even to London. A little less in London, but by far more of it happens if I go to DC. I used to work in DC before I did online video stuff, because I worked for some nonprofit organizations, and I would always find myself, and everybody in DC is the same, where it's like everybody who lives in that city thinks that if they don't go to work the next day, the world will end. And that's understandable, because they are working on stuff that's like, it's the decisions that are being made that affect this very large and important country.
DC's really great. I hear they have some really good educational creators who were born there. Brian, I don't know.
Good one, Sam.
So I know that I would get more done. I probably would have more, a bigger business, more money, more like something, more stuff, whatever it is. Probably if I lived in Los Angeles. But at the same time, I think like there's parts of me that think maybe I wouldn't, because when you live in a place like that has such a strong culture of the industry that like drives it, and Los Angeles is a great example, especially if you're in the entertainment industry, you're going to be interfacing with all of these systems, the agencies and the management and all the traditional entertainment systems, and that changes your goals. It changes how you see the world. It changes what you want. And it doesn't it doesn't change everybody into the same thing, but it does definitely influence you. And I see it in myself when I go there. So that's how I know that it would influence me. Mm-hmm. And when I come back, I get to think like, well, what are my, I kind of get to create a different set of goals that are less influenced by, the systems that have already been created. And I think that can be really liberating and allow you to innovate differently and do things that are unexpected, that might be successful, that other people aren't doing because they're sort of stuck in a particular mindset. The other thing is that I will often, when I talk to people who have built businesses in California, usually, they'll be like, how could you possibly hire the best people if you're in this podunk little town? And I just, that infuriates me. To me, it seems like such, and I understand that, great people are attracted to bigger cities because then they can, go, they have better food and better airports and better shows and, better culture. And, I get that Missoula, Montana doesn't have all those things, but there are lots of reasons that great people want to live here. Mostly it's that it's very beautiful and it's nice to go outside, and if you are an outdoorsy person. But it's also some people are great and don't have the opportunity to move to California. Some people want to stay nearby their families. Some people want to have a more sort of connected life that is, in a town where they might run into people they know at the grocery store more often, and they know the bartender, and they can't, like, in a town like Missoula, you really can't be a super dick without everybody knowing.
Yeah.
Like, if you're just a jerk, like, I have a friend who works at the cafe, and if you're a jerk to the person at the cafe, I'm probably going to find out about it. Like, and so that kind of has a moderating influence on everyone, which I think is great. And I was in London once, and I saw a man in a business suit just tear apart a barista for making his coffee improperly. And I was like, I am so, like, deeply freaked out right now. I want to hurt this man. And the fact that no one is saying anything makes me feel like I'm watching a literal assault, and everyone is just sitting there. And I don't, like, maybe that was just a very unusual experience that doesn't happen very often, but it made me feel like
I've had those experiences in London too. It's one of the reasons I have absolutely no interest in moving to London. I don't want to live there. I'd take Dublin over London any day. People in Dublin are lovely.
Yeah.
But you want to move to New York.
New York? I don't know, man. It's far enough away from home.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you might not find the most warm people there.
Yeah, I know. I found the energy of New York really infectious, which is why I liked it. But London is like home for me. Like, it's so close to Ireland.
Right.
There's so many Irish people there. You're just another Paddy in London. But, like, New York, at least you feel like you're in a different kind of more exotic land than London. London just feels like part of Ireland at this point. So that, like, it just doesn't have that appeal to me, whereas New York feels new and different.
Yeah. I really like the idea of doing stuff in places that are unexpected, partially, to be totally honest, because people are like, that's weird.
Yeah.
He could do that in that place, and then it makes me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
But also because, like, these places need jobs and, like, culture and interesting things too. And if everybody who's doing something interesting immediately goes to the coasts, then in America you just, like, end up with this wasteland in between, which is a little bit what's already happened.
Yeah.
Wasteland is obviously the fucking wrong word. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this.
I personally don't care. I'm quite fond of cursing.
So, like, obviously these places are lovely, but you don't want, like, everyone to just vacate who can. Like, those are the worst situations, when you have everyone who's able to leaves.
Yeah.
That's when you get, like, the south side of Chicago. And, like, and the people who are left are just like, I can't get out of this situation, and bad things happen.
Go on.
all your combined businesses are now kind of, they're a moderate, you're not really a small business in Missoula.
Right.
So, I mean, has that had an effect on the town? Just, having all these employees and kind of a very well-known, at least, on the internet, a well-known kind of brand there.
It has. I don't think that it has had a measurable impact on Missoula, which is a pretty big place. I mean, the university employs, like, tons and tons of people, and but like, it's definitely had an impact on, like, a certain like, demographic of the town. So, there is an artistic community here with lots of young people who went to the university and are trying to make it work. And a lot of those people have come to work for me because they are aware of the work we're doing, and because the jobs are artistic. Like, they get to draw and, like, do animations and do design all day, and then at night they can go and do their own thing. So there's definitely, like, in any town, 60,000 people, you're not all going to know each other, and so there are these, like, little pockets of people who are more likely to know each other. And so in the world of, like, my neighborhood, I am surprised by the number of people who I employ whose houses I can walk to, or, like, walk by just on like, going to the river or something. And so in that way, it does feel like, wow, I feel like I'm probably having an impact on this community.
It's pretty cool. Like, that's one of the reasons I kind of changed my mind about leaving Ireland, was that I feel like if I set up in Galway or Dublin, I feel like I can actually maybe change, at least in my own space. I'm not another Irish person who's decided to immigrate and set up somewhere else, because I feel like that's just such a common theme in Irish history. Like half of the US presidents have been Irish in the last 100 years, I'd say. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Irish-ish.
Did
like
you
a
see
quarter,
all of this
so.
with Barack Obama? They were claiming he was partly Irish, and they've named a little like gas station area like Obama Square after him, and they like gave him a pint of Guinness in a pub. It's like, hey, you're Irish now, well done.
Within 3 or 4 generations, every American person is going to be Irish. We had enough, and you guys spread around.
Yeah, we don't invade, we infest.
Fantastic. That's all I can legally say about that comment.
So we just talked about all your kind of employees, I guess, and being able to employ them locally. But kind of going back to your history, when did you kind of decide it was time to employ people? And I guess in conjunction with that, go full-time yourself?
Yeah, well, I mean, those were 2 very different dates. Going full-time myself, it basically happened in 2007, but like not in a normal way. So at that moment, I had a full-time job that was my own business. And so I had like me, and I had some freelancers that did a blog called EcoGeek that was environmental technology stuff. So we covered Tesla, and we covered the Chevy Volt, and we covered wind turbines and solar panels and stuff like that. And, basically our business model was get on Reddit, get on Dig, then turn those dollars, then turn those views into dollars somehow. And that was my full-time job in 2006. I also did like freelance stuff, like database design and web development things. And then, when Vlogbrothers started to be a thing that was satisfying me creatively, EcoGeek was still like the thing that I did in the day, and I like made money off of it. But I like recently looked at my tax forms, because you can see your income in America for like the last 10 years. It'll be on your tax form. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, in 2007, I made like $17,000. And I never felt like it was a bad year. Like I never felt in a bad place, because I'd made it, like EcoGeek had made a bunch of money, and then like there was a number of different factors that led to it making less money in 2007. Part of it was that I wasn't working as hard on the site, but I was also in the process of trying to sell EcoGeek to a major media company for like low 6 figures, and so I was then going to be employed by that company. So I was doing these 2 things where I was trying to make YouTube work and trying to sell my blog so that I could get a real job, basically. And so those 2 things were happening simultaneously, and it felt like this was enough, and I could pull from my savings, and like one of these things was going to work out, and one of them didn't, which is that 2008, and you remember 2008 probably, the entire world economy collapsed, and so that sale thing didn't happen, right. And I didn't get that job.
That happened.
But Vlogbrothers did continue working, and by 2008, I was making enough from Vlogbrothers to pay the bills. And then it was another 3 or 4 years before I hired the first person. So that happened about 5 years ago, when I was like, I am losing money, demonstrably losing money, because I don't have time to deal with everything. Mm-hmm. And that could be anything from like, I've been paying a cell phone bill that I'm not using for 6 months because I don't have time to call and cancel it. To like, if I had help doing this thing, then I could be like making SciShow and Crash Course, which I wasn't doing at that point. So I hired my first person, who still works for me, who's basically the head of VidCon, and he would come to my house every day, and he would be like, what do you need me to do? and that was his job. We didn't have an office. He would just show up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then he would leave at 9 o'clock, and he would go do things all day, and then the next morning he would show up again. It was great. It was the perfect way to transition from being like a one person show to more than that.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds awesome. Brian, you need a job?
No. Well, that sounds amazing. Like, I wish I had someone that could help me with that sort of stuff. Because, like, every now and again, I find the emails are what are driving me crazy now. Because I get so many emails per day from so many different sources just asking me things and giving me these proposals. And I just don't have the capacity to take it all in.
When I was starting my YouTube channel, I was using a very old laptop because I didn't have the money to upgrade. It was slow and regularly crashed when rendering out complex animations. But the worst thing that happened was when the entire hard drive got corrupted and I lost all my work for an upcoming video. I had to redo everything and lost 2 weeks of productivity. It was a huge hit to the growth of my channel at a very early stage of my career on YouTube.
Well, Brian, you should have used Backblaze. I've used them for a few months now, and it's really a fantastic way to back up your data on your computer. If your computer does crash and you lose your data, it'll be the best investment you ever made. It's just $5 per month to have the peace of mind of knowing that, no matter what happens, you'll always have your data stored in the safe and secure cloud. You can try out Backblaze with all its features for 15 days by signing up over at backblaze.com/showmakers. Once again, that's Backblaze, BACKBLAZE.com/showmakers.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys thought about having, like, traditionally, this isn't done as an assistant. It's done as a management or agency relationship where you have a manager and they handle your incoming and they figure out what deals you might be interested in. I mean, have you thought about doing that?
Well, that we have that more or less. Dave, who is also the producer of this show, he kind of manages all our sponsorship related stuff. So we have that more or less.
Yeah,
which is hugely useful.
It's been, but that's been a recent development. That has been. I'm getting an email from some sponsorship thing recently, and I just immediately forwarded it to him, and that was when I knew I made the right decision. I was like, okay, this is making me so much happier of a person. It's taking stress out of my life.
He also does things like convince us to make a podcast.
Yeah,
which is
that's
useful.
Cool. How did you get hooked up with him?
Henry actually introduced me to him.
Yeah. I had another...
Metaphysics, Henry.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I was introduced to him by Kurt Gazat.
Kurt's Gazat. Philip.
Philip. Yes, Philip. We'll stay with Philip. I still can't say it, even though I have to all the time. But yeah, so we were all introduced to him by separate sources.
I was introduced to him. I'm just going to call it nothing in a nutshell too, but it was kind of a simultaneous thing. But I found that funny. It was Metaphysics who was one of the first kind of people who I looked up to in the YouTube community who reached out to me. And that was like one of those big moments. It was like, whoa, Metaphysics emailed me out of the blue. It's like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, and that is one of my favorite things, because all the actually talking with people who I'm fans with, I'm a fan of, and working with people like that, and feeling not fully, but I'm starting to feel like I'm in this space.
Yeah,
which is a really cool thing as someone who's been a fan of educational videos for a while.
Yeah, it must be so. It must be different and cool to come at it from that place, which is, I've definitely had people reach out to me and be like, oh my God, that person's so cool. Or just met that person at VidCon or whatever. But and that has kind of happened to me with podcasting, because, getting into podcasting is such a different genre, such a different format, and so different community, that when I was able to talk to the guys from Welcome to Night Vale or to the McElroy brothers, that to me was what? I'm you've seen my stuff? That's so cool. Yeah, that's nice.
And it also even if it gives you an excuse to talk to these people, as this is technically business. even though it's certainly fun.
I'm having a blast.
Even though it's just me having a fan moment.
Yeah.
Works
out great.
That kind of... I remember one of the big moments. I think you haven't had a video about the Mars Society, and you are a founding member of the Mars Society, right?
Yes, that's a weird thing to know about me.
Well, but this is the Mars Society founding statement was, and I'm pretty sure you were the person to introduce me to the Mars Society through a Vlogbrother video, because I used to watch you a lot when I was at that stage in my life, and I can't remember.
So you don't now?
I do now.
Okay.
But you've expanded into so many different things now. Vlogbrothers didn't really exist back then. I mean, not Vlogbrothers, Crash Course and SciShow. Yeah. Everything didn't exist.
Well, I haven't watched all of our things either, to be clear.
But that, I think it was, you used a specific quote. It was like the civilizations like people thrive and challenge and decay without it. Do you know this part of the founding statement? And I used that as, that part of the founding statement I used as kind of the anecdotal kind of beginning of my scholarship entry for my aeronautical engineering. And the only reason I went to do that master's course is because I got a scholarship on the back of that. But I wanted to ask you about the Mars Society, because I've been I'm listening to the Elon Musk biography at the moment, and one of the ways he started SpaceX was he first went to talk to people at Mars Society, but it seems like there's not much information out there about it. It just seems like a bunch of people who are really enthusiastic about Mars meet up and talk about it and set up random little experiments in the desert and in the Arctic. What is your involvement with it? It's something I'm really curious about.
My involvement at this point?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay.
So the year that the Mars Society started, they opened up membership, and I was in high school, I think. Okay. So I just bought the membership, and that was the founding member. That I bought the membership the first year. So there was nothing more special to it than that. And I went to their conference in Boulder, and I saw Robert Zubrin talk, and James Cameron was there, and he talked. And I met some people, and I discovered The Onion. I remember that was something that at that point, The Onion was just a physical newspaper that was distributed in college campuses, and I thought I discovered that and was amazed. It was my first time in out west. But I was just this nerdy high school student in Boulder, Colorado, with a bunch of engineers, and being I am super into this. Tell me about the future. So I feel like I have misled you.
It was always I went looking for it today, and I couldn't find the specific video that I'm thinking of that I was introduced to that specific quote, because that's my favorite quote of all time. There's that little paragraph in their founding statement. I have it on my LinkedIn profile for 3-4 years. I love it. But then I was listening to the Elon Musk thing reminded me of it.
I'm feeling right now what's our challenge going to be? Because I'm really worried that it's going to be a manufactured challenge, and it's going to be human to human.
Yeah.
And I would much rather it be global warming be our next big challenge, and that we all have to work together because it's all the same planet. But I don't know. I've gotten less optimistic in the last 2 months than I used to be. But maybe I'll find it somewhere.
It's hard not to be. I'll stay out of the American side of things because I know nothing. I posted a lovely little picture of the Irish president on Twitter today. He's so cute.
He meant to send me a picture of the Irish president, and he accidentally posted it on Twitter. It was a really old person Twitter moment.
I'm looking at it right now. He's so cute. He's so cute.
It's just in the Twitter feed by itself. But okay, that was a non-sequitur.
He's a hobbit. He's great. He's so friendly too. I used to serve him at the restaurant I used to work in. He's the friendliest man.
Oh, that's great.
This episode of Showmakers was made possible by Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to create a beautiful website or online store with award-winning templates.
Squarespace allows you to create a beautiful website in an all-in-one platform. There's nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever.
If you ever have difficulties, they have award-winning 24/7 customer support. Squarespace is used by a wide range of creatives, people, business musicians, designers, artists, restaurateurs, and more. It's a flexible platform so you can create your website. You can get 10% off your first order with Squarespace by going to squarespace.com/showmakers and using the code showmakers. Make your next move with a beautiful website from Squarespace. So Crash Course.
Okay.
Crash Course. We were talking about this before we Brian and I were talking about this earlier. What we realized about it is at least for people in education right now, in any, university, high school, whatever, it's a pretty universal name. Like, when people, it's what maybe used to be like using Spark Notes. Now you might use Crash Course.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, first, because another thing that you don't realize is maybe you're looking at
yeah,
the
that's
view
weird.
counts. And a lot of those views are not one person; they're a classroom of 20 kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite,
Yeah.
First of all, it's a ridiculously well-produced show, well-researched. And it's I think it's one of the more successful, now I'm forgetting the name, the YouTube original, what is it
Programming.
called? The program where, was it YouTube original?
What? Yeah, the original name was YouTube Original Programming Grants.
Yeah. Which, I think started like, now I'm blanking on this too. The Philip DeFranco.
Yeah, so did SourceFed up. It started. It was also in the second round funded Rhett and Link Studio. The Fine Brothers got a big push from it as well. I'm not sure who else in the world of online video. I mean, the amazing thing about that program is that the money went to like 90 Hollywood production companies and 10 YouTubers. And the 10 YouTubers made sustainable things out of it. And the 90 Hollywood production companies took the money and they were like, thank you very much. This is fantastic. We'll make a little bit of crappy content and the rest of it we will just line our pockets with. And they all went away. Almost all. Like a couple of them made interesting things out of it. Soul Pancake, I think, came out of that too.
Yeah, I noticed that Wayne Wilson was involved.
Yeah. But
So
I just
what
it kind of infuriated me because to be totally like behind the scenes honest here, we found out about it and they were like, we have decided to open this up to some YouTubers. And so they weren't planning on having any YouTubers be involved at all. And then some internal people at YouTube was like, this is a terrible idea and we're going to catch so much flack for this. And also we should try to like, maybe the people who know how to make YouTube videos should be trying to do this too. And so we had like a week to put together our proposals. And we put together two for SciShow and Crash Course, and they both got funded.
And so were those both ideas that you had been kind of sitting on for a while before then?
Nope. And I always think that's really interesting that like the ideas that you have are in like, they should be influenced by the tools you have at your disposal. So if I'm like, I've got an idea, I want to terraform Mars. Like, no, that's not an idea. Like, yeah, sure, everybody can have that idea, but nobody can do it, so it doesn't matter. So like, what are the ideas that I have that I can do? Like so just to brag, I'm going to straight up brag. I wish I had an example that wasn't a me example, but when I was just graduated from college, I moved back home and I got a job at a lab. And I was bored as hell because it was a boring job. And I had this idea that like, so I commuted on this road. I hated this road. The traffic was terrible. And I had this idea like I could create like a transportation reform advocacy group. And all I would have to do is like rally people around the fact that everybody together hates this road. So what can we do in our lives and in policy to make it not this terrible thing that we have in our lives? And so I built a website called IHateI4.com. I4 was the road. And then I took like political yard signs They were actually like we buy houses. This was a thing in Florida at the time. It was like companies would buy your house for like below market rate if you were in trouble financially. So like we buy houses signs. I spray painted them. I painted over them with the logo for IHateI4.com, and I just put them on the most busy exits. And that was my marketing strategy. So like all those were things that I could do. And I didn't have to have anybody, like I didn't have to have any more money than I had. I didn't have to have any more people than I had. I could do it all on my own. And like that's, to me, like that's a great idea. It's something that like you can like build something without tools that you don't already have. So I had all the tools necessary to do this. And it was a thing, until I moved to Montana and then gave up on it. I was just like, well, I don't fucking care about I4 anymore. But who knows, if I'd never moved to Montana, maybe I'd still be doing that. It sounds miserable. Like I pretty much don't have ideas for things that I can do that are outside of my toolkit. And so when YouTube was like, what would your toolkit look like if you had $500,000? I was like, oh, that's a different idea. What ideas would I have if I had $500,000? And SciShow and Crash Course were the two best ones that we came up with. But like, boy, I tell you, I came up with like 25 ideas that week, because that is an inspiring number.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can only imagine what I would come up with if I had a week to propose for that.
Well, why the hell isn't YouTube asking you? I mean, like, it worked so well when they did it for us. Seriously, it worked so well. We have a big business now that is reliant upon their company succeeding. It's a fantastic, mutually beneficial situation. We've created a ton of value for them. They've created a ton of value for us. Why aren't they doing it?
They do seem to be making more effort to be more
focused on they need to give you $500,000, right? Like if you work at YouTube, these are two guys you should give $500,000 to. If I had $500,000, I would give it to these guys immediately. I just
well, YouTube?
I wish yes. Well, YouTube, well, balls in your court.
YouTube, give me money. I want your money. Give it to me.
Anyway, I'm confident it'll happen in one way or another. Anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, it's weird that Crash Course is it is. I cannot accept or comprehend like the scale at which Crash Course is used.
Because I promise it is like, I'd say, okay, maybe this is just in the people that I know, but it's a really well-known name. Even for people that might, they might not watch it because, it's not exactly the type of channel where you subscribe and watch every video that comes out. Or at least for a lot of people, they'll watch it if they have a relevant course, or if they're really interested in a topic. So there are a ton of people exposed to it, not just, not more than just, whoever is maybe subscribed to it or watches it religiously.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of subscribers. It's got a lot of views. It's our biggest channel. It was weird when Crash Course became bigger than Vlogbrothers. I was like, oh, okay. That's what $500,000 can do.
But you also get huge view spikes like during exam season and everything else, don't you?
Totally, yes.
That's really interesting that they actually show up in searches and everything as well. Like that just does wonders.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like if you're taking your the thing is, like, you go through a semester of biology and you've forgotten what you learned at the beginning of the semester already, and now you have your final, and that includes stuff you learned in the first week. And so people just watch the whole biology series in 1 week or one day, like one evening. They're just like, oh my god, how am I going to not fail? Which is great for us, but I would prefer that they evened it out a little bit. Push it, maybe have 3 weeks of revision instead of like one afternoon. But yeah, it's,
I find it really interesting because I feel like I was right on the edge of that generation that had access to the internet in school. I can't imagine what it would be like to go through secondary school now, or you call it high school, with that resource. I can't imagine what I would have gotten up to. Even like like the things I would have figured out how to make out of things. Like I think I would have injured myself badly if I had access to the internet. Like we were making rockets with like stuff out of the chemistry lab in our school. Like it's such a cool resource.
Yeah, I hurt myself one day making basically a bomb. Like kids figure out ways to do it. So we would put like various things you can like just put in a 2-liter bottle, and when they convert from solid to gas or liquid to gas, the bottle will explode. And we would do that with like muriatic acid and tinfoil is one that creates enough gas to blow something up. But luckily, this one was it was a Gatorade bottle, so it's a more substantial bottle than like a 2-liter of Pepsi. Gatorade bottle and just dry ice and water. So the dry ice turns to carbon dioxide, which then fills up the bottle, and then eventually the bottle fails. But it didn't. And if you know what a Gatorade bottle looks like, it's got a lot of indentations in it. So it went from being like this like bunches of like all of those expanded, so it was like the shape of an American football, like a rugby ball, and it like rolled over on its side, and then it sat there in the driveway with all of this potential energy just sitting inside of it, and so I was like we couldn't just leave it there. It was a freaking bomb, and so it was my idea, and so I had to deal with it. We threw rocks at it for a while to try and get it to explode. That didn't work. And then I went and I basically touched the cap, and it the pressure unscrewed the cap, and it slammed into my hand, leaving a bruise on the inside of my hand. And then the gas scorched. It wasn't hot, but it just the abrasion of the friction of the gas leaving, it hit my hand and then blew up also into my face, and basically gave me what kind of looked like windburn, I guess. But I was okay, so I didn't die.
That's all what Chuck.
And I don't even know. Yeah, that was just word of mouth. How to build a bomb? No internet stuff.
That sounds safe.
That sounds safe. Yeah,
word of mouth bomb building.
What's the worst thing?
It's better to have the internet, because at least then it's do not touch the cap.
But I don't think I was smart enough to be able to listen to
drive
things
your car
telling
over
me
it.
not to do. I would have been doing exactly what they're telling me not to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the type of stupid kid I was.
Yeah.
I've had some ridiculous injuries over my life. I've been shot in the chest with a bow and arrow. Thankfully, it was blunt. I've had a pebble stuck in my forehead for 2 years. I was an accident-prone kid.
So, other than bomb building, what do you do when you're not doing, VidCon or Vlogbrothers or any of those other things? Other than you have a child. But
I do have a child, and so that is most of it. I will come home from work, and like a long day of meetings and shooting is pretty exhausting for me. And so I'll come home, and I will be surprised to find that taking care of the baby doesn't make me more tired, and isn't oh, I have to do more stuff. It's oh, this is a completely different set of tasks that uses a completely different part of I don't know if it's of my brain or whatever, but I just it doesn't, whatever part of me is exhausted is not being used by childcare. And so I'm happy, and I'm so oh, this is a thing that I can do, and you're cute and you like me, and your diaper smells, but that's okay. I don't blame you for that. And so yes, that's in the last 3 months has been a huge part of what I do with my spare time. I have friends. I like to hang out with them. I have grad school friends and work friends, basically, are my two friend groups. I also play music, and so I like to just practice guitar if I have time. And just finished and started shipping out a card game that I made called Wizard School, which is like a kind of hobby that I had for the last year or so developing this game, which is great that it's finally real. Though with anything that you work on for a long time, you're like, boy, this sure isn't perfect. I could have made this better, but like we worked for a long time to make it as good as it is, so I have to accept it. And a lot of people are having a really good time playing it, so that's what's important. And I mean, a lot of it, like my hobbies are creating new things, like things that you would actually consider hobbies. Like, I have a hard time doing things that don't have an avenue toward becoming self-sustaining businesses because I can, and I feel like it almost is an obligation if you have the ability to create jobs that you should. So I have those kinds of ideas. I have them all the time, and I discard most of them because I need to take care of my mental health. But I've always got a couple that I'm putting on the back burner and continuing to think about. I like to write. I've been writing a novel for 3 years, and I'm sure I'll never finish it. And I like to watch TV. The Expanse and The Magicians, 2 sci-fi shows, are back, which is very exciting for me because they were my favorite shows last season. The Expanse is actually coming out tonight, which means I get to watch it tomorrow because I don't have cable. I have to buy it on Amazon. But
what's it about? I've never heard about it.
It's based on a series of books by James Comey, and they are... Wait, that might be wrong. Is that the FBI director? I'm making sure before I say that out loud. James Comey is the FBI director. James Corey. But it's basically like 300 years in the future. Humanity has colonized the solar system. Mars and Earth are independent military powers and independent. They're basically, Earth is all one country now, basically run by the UN.
Oh my God!
And
this sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds great.
And Mars is like a better place to live than Earth. In the same way that when new things happen, they tend to happen more quickly and better and more efficiently. And so Mars is kind of like an economic power, and it's a military power. Earth is still very big, but its institutions are clunky and slow, and there's more bureaucracy and corruption. And then there's the asteroid belt, which is where most of the series actually takes place, where a lot of the resources that both Mars and Earth use come from. And so but it's basically run by corporations. And the people who live there are the simple version is on Mars and Earth, the average life expectancy is about 120 years. And in the asteroid belt, it's about 70. So it's just it's where the downtrodden live. And the series is a noir detective series based in this place where there's basically revolution being fomented, and they're being manipulated by corporations and by Earth and by Mars, and they're sort of being pulled in all these different ways, but the characters are basically just trying to do their jobs and make their life work. But there's in the backdrop of this magnificent large scale weirdness. So it's so good. It's so good. I love it.
I don't know how I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm writing. I wrote that down. I have a long One of the things we should mention is both Brian and I have shirts on DFTBA.
Yeah.
Your
my merch company.
Well, the merch company, yeah. DFT, well, I guess it was a label, right? And then shifted or something.
Well, I mean, I think much of the music industry has shifted toward that. But also we started focusing on music because it was a thing that, back when we started, CDs were still a thing. And it was a way for YouTubers who were making music to make more money doing what they were doing. And that's always been, one of the things I've wanted to do is make it easier for YouTube creators to make a living doing their thing. But then, it became clear that CDs weren't going to be a thing anymore. And also lots of non-musician YouTubers had an opportunity to create stuff that their audience would like. and make some money that way. And everybody's happy. You get a thing you like, and we try and give the highest possible splits to the creators because we are creators ourselves. And and we try to take care of the hard parts.
So buy our shirts, so all of
buy
us
your
can
shirts.
make money. And all of us win.
Yes, correct.
What's the deal with the Elon Musk Twitter account?
To be clear,
does John run it or do you run it? Like, I know it's one of you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe you know about Elon Musk, but you don't know why it exists. That's very strange.
I found it separately. I love it. It's the funniest thing in the world.
That's amazing. It had not occurred to me that there were people who followed Elon Musk who weren't in on the joke. John and I have a podcast together, and one day on the podcast, in fact, it's what I'm doing right after this. I'm recording that podcast. I talk a lot about Mars on the podcast. It's one of the things that, like, at the end of the podcast, I will bring you the news from Mars. And it's usually about the Curiosity rover, but sometimes it's about other stuff. And John, we were riffing one day, and we decided that if we made a bet that if humanity gets to Mars by 2028, that I will win the bet, and I don't even know what happens because that's a ridiculous goal and it's not going to happen. But if John wins the bet, which he frickin' will, because I don't know what I was thinking, the name of the podcast will be changed from Dear Hank and John to Dear John and Hank. And so the nice thing is that I've secured the name Dear Hank and John until at least 2028, which is actually kind of a win. But because of that, John now has created a Twitter account that advocates for not going to Mars before 2028, and it is Elon Musk for Earth, number 4 Earth, and it is basically Elon Musk's alter ego in which he just is really, really enthusiastic about how fantastic Earth is. So that's where Elon Musk came from, and it's hilarious to me that anyone knows who Elon Musk is and also doesn't listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
I wonder how Leon's
I think
doing.
You must have retweeted or something.
Yeah, I'm sure I did, or John did. Elon Musk is following one person on Twitter, and I'm very curious who it is. But my internet is being slow, so it's
I'm
not
sure it's
telling
Elon
me.
Musk, is it? It's NASA.
It's the NASA that just studies Earth.